The vibrant cityscape of Jiangcheng shimmered under the afternoon sun, its towering skyscrapers reflecting the bustling life below. Amidst this urban sprawl, Su Jinru navigated the crowded streets with a sense of urgency etched into her every step. Her worn briefcase swung heavily at her side, a constant reminder of her recent struggles. Life had dealt her a harsh hand. A painful breakup with Zhao Chun, her once steadfast boyfriend, had left her both emotionally battered and financially strained. Jinru's thoughts were a tangled web of anxiety and frustration. She had always admired her father's resilience and the way he commanded respect within the family business. Yet, her father's deteriorating health had thrust her into a position she felt ill-prepared for. His persistent demands for her to marry soon were not just about her happiness, but also about securing the family's legacy. The pressure weighed heavily on her, especially after discovering unsettling hints of Zhao Chun's infidelity. Today, her phone had been buzzing incessantly with messages from her best friend, Xin Yue, her stepsister. The latest text had shaken her to the core. "Jinru, something's wrong. I saw your boyfriend Zhao Chun and your stepsister entering a hotel." The implications were clear, and her heart sank at the possibility of betrayal from both her boyfriend and her own family member. Determined to confront the truth, Jinru made her way to the hotel mentioned in the message. The grand entrance of the hotel was both intimidating and opulent, its marble floors gleaming under the lobby's bright lights. As she stepped inside, the receptionist offered a polite smile, but Jinru's mind was elsewhere, fixated on the confrontation that awaited her. Her anxiety grew as she ascended in the elevator, each floor bringing her closer to the truth. When the doors finally opened, she found herself in a dimly lit corridor lined with closed doors. The muffled sounds of conversation echoed from one of them, and Jinru's pulse quickened. Summoning every ounce of courage, she approached the door only to hear the unmistakable voices of Zhao Chun and Xin Yue.
Jinru, what are you doing here?
What? Sujinru, why are you here?
The sight of them together confirmed her worst fears. Jinru's heart ached as she watched them interact, their body language betraying the facade they attempted to maintain. The tension in the room was palpable, thick with unspoken accusations and hidden truths. Before the situation could escalate further, her phone buzzed again. It was her father, Mr. Li, calling. Jinru glanced at the screen, her father's name flashing ominously. She stepped aside to take the call, the weight of her father's expectations pressing down on her.
Hello, Jinru. Dad here.
Her father's voice was a mix of urgency and frustration. She could hear the toll his illness had taken on him, the desperation in his tone unmistakable.
Hello, Dad.
I'm telling you, if you don't marry soon, I won't go through with the surgery. You'll lose me as your dad forever.
The ultimatum hung in the air, a stark reminder of her obligations. Jinru sighed, trying to steady her emotions. If it weren't for your dying dad needing a son-in-law to inherit, I wouldn't have gotten engaged to you. Now all the assets will go to Xinyue. Her father's exasperated response was swift and harsh. Why should I bother with you? What a crap engagement ring. I never want to see you two cheaters again. Jinru felt a surge of anger and humiliation. The Bulgari limited edition wedding ring, worth $1 million, was now a symbol of her family's fractured relationships and her own lost trust. The realization that Zhao Chun and Xin Yue had conspired against her was a bitter pill to swallow. With tears threatening to spill, Jinru turned on her heel and fled the room. The corridors of the hotel seemed to close in around her, each step echoing her feelings of betrayal and abandonment. She needed to escape, to find a moment of peace amidst the chaos that had overtaken her life. Seeking solace, she wandered into the hotel's serene courtyard, the soothing sounds of a fountain offering a temporary respite from her turmoil. Her eyes were drawn to the outdoor pool, its clear waters reflecting the late afternoon sun. Despite her aversion to water and her inability to swim, Jinru felt an inexplicable pull toward the pool, a place where she could momentarily drown her sorrows. As she approached the edge, her thoughts were interrupted by a sudden noise. Hotel staff hurriedly moved about, their faces etched with concern. An emergency announcement blared over the speakers, calling for immediate assistance. The name Lee Yunchi echoed through the courtyard, a name that had recently become a topic of hushed conversations around town. Jinru's curiosity was piqued, but her distress kept her rooted to the spot. Before she could decide her next move, fate intervened in the most unexpected way. A misplaced step sent her sprawling towards the pool, and before she could react, she plunged into the cold water. Panic surged through her as she realized she couldn't keep her head above the surface. Her heart raced, each beat a frantic reminder of her vulnerability. In the midst of her struggle, a strong arm wrapped around her waist, pulling her to the side of the pool with remarkable strength. Gasping for air, Jinru looked up to find herself face to face with a man whose presence was both commanding and enigmatic. His dark eyes bore into hers with a mix of concern and something deeper, something she couldn't quite place. Lee Yunchi, brushing water from his sleeves, a hint of amusement in his voice.
Troublesome woman, what do you think you're doing?
I slipped.
Embarrassment flushed her cheeks as she attempted to steady herself, both physically and emotionally. The man before her exuded an aura of authority, his tailored suit impeccable, his demeanor unflappable despite the chaos he had just intervened in.
I saved you. I don't need your thanks, but marry me.
Jinru blinked in disbelief. Marry me? The absurdity of the request was almost comical, yet the seriousness in his tone left her speechless. She could feel the weight of his expectations pressing down on her, leaving her to grapple with the bewildering proposition.
Consider marriage as repayment for saving your life. I'll give you freedom in 2 years. Bring your household registration book to the Civil Affairs Bureau at 2:30 p.m. tomorrow.
With those final words, he turned and walked away, leaving Jinru drenched and dazed by the pool's edge. The significance of his offer began to dawn on her, mingling with the already overwhelming emotions swirling within her. In the days that followed, Jinru found herself grappling with the reality of Lee Yunchi's proposition. Her father's condition was worsening, and the pressure to secure her position within the family business intensified. The thought of marrying a stranger, let alone a man as formidable as Lee Yunchi, was both terrifying and strangely compelling. She couldn't shake the image of his commanding presence or the way he had effortlessly saved her from her humiliating fall. Despite the absurdity of the situation, Jinru knew she had little choice. Her father's ultimatum was clear, and the stakes were too high to ignore. Reluctantly, she agreed to meet Lee Yunchi, her mind a whirlwind of fear, confusion, and a faint glimmer of hope. Perhaps this unexpected turn of events could lead her to reclaim control over her life, or, at the very least, provide a means to secure her father's legacy. When the day of their meeting arrived, Jinru approached the Civil Affairs Bureau with trepidation. The imposing building stood as a symbol of bureaucracy and order, a stark contrast to the chaos she felt inside. As she stepped into the office, she was greeted by a receptionist who offered a courteous smile, though Jinru barely registered the gesture. She was soon ushered into a private meeting room where Lee Yunchi awaited her. His presence was even more commanding in person, his tailored suit and poised demeanor leaving no doubt about his status. He gestured for her to sit, and she complied, her hands nervously fidgeting in her lap. Lee Yunchi, with a slight smile, though his eyes remained stern.
Thank you for coming, Jinru. I understand this must be a lot to take in.
I don't understand. Why are you asking me to marry you?
Lee Yunchi leaned forward slightly, his expression softening just a fraction.
It was a business decision, Jinru. Your father needs someone reliable to help manage the family assets, and given our unexpected encounter, it seemed practical.
Jinru took a deep breath, trying to steady herself. But I have no intention of marrying someone I barely know, especially not for business reasons. Lee Yunchi, nodding thoughtfully.
I understand your hesitation. However, our marriage could be mutually beneficial. I provide stability and resources, and in return, I receive your cooperation in managing the family's interests.
The logic was sound, yet the emotional toll was overwhelming. Jinru glanced out the window, seeking any sign of escape, but found none. Her father's voice echoed in her mind, a relentless reminder of her obligations. As the meeting progressed, Jinru found herself navigating a delicate balance between skepticism and necessity. Lee Yunqi's unwavering confidence was both reassuring and intimidating, making her question whether she could ever truly trust him. Yet the reality of her situation left her with little choice but to consider his proposal seriously. In the following weeks, Jinru was thrust into a whirlwind of meetings and negotiations. She met with various members of the Lee Group, each encounter revealing more about the intricate web of family ties and business dealings. Despite her initial resistance, she began to see the potential benefits of aligning herself with such a powerful figure. Lee Yunqi's strategic mind and unwavering dedication were evident, qualities that Jinru admired even as she grappled with the personal sacrifices required. Amidst the professional pressures, Jinru couldn't ignore the undercurrents of personal connection that seemed to grow between her and Lee Yunqi. His presence was a constant reminder of the unexpected turn her life had taken, and though she was determined to remain detached, moments of vulnerability occasionally broke through his stoic exterior. These fleeting glimpses left Jinru both unsettled and intrigued, hinting at a depth that went beyond mere business. One particularly hectic afternoon, as Jinru sifted through piles of paperwork in her new office, her phone buzzed with another message from Jinyue. "Jinru, meet me at the hotel lobby. We need to talk." The urgency in Xinyue's words suggested that things were far from settled between them. When Jinru arrived, she found Xinyue waiting with a tense expression. The room felt smaller, the air thick with unspoken words. "We need to clear the air," Xinyue began, her voice softer than Jinru had ever heard it. Before they could delve into their conversation, Lee Yunqi entered the room, his presence commanding immediate attention. "Jinru, Xinyue, may I have a word?" His request was polite yet firm, and both women nodded in acknowledgement. Jinru felt a shiver run down her spine. The intertwining of personal and professional spheres was becoming increasingly complicated, and she couldn't help but wonder how much longer she could maintain the delicate balance she had so carefully constructed. The following weeks were a whirlwind of emotions and unexpected developments for Su Jinru. The arrangement with Lee Yunqi loomed over her every decision, casting a long shadow on both her personal and professional life. Her father's health continued to decline, intensifying the pressure to secure her position within the family business. As Jinru grappled with the complexities of her newfound engagement, she found herself navigating a labyrinth of family obligations, business intrigues, and lingering heartbreak. Jinru's days were consumed with meetings and negotiations at Jinsi Law Firm, where she had recently started her legal career. The proximity to Lee Yunqi, the powerful CEO of the Lee Group, meant that every interaction was charged with an undercurrent of tension and unspoken motives. She couldn't help but notice how seamlessly he commanded every room he entered, his presence both formidable and magnetic. As the trio settled into a private conference room, the atmosphere was thick with anticipation. Lee Yunqi began, his tone measured and authoritative.
There are several issues that need to be addressed regarding our current arrangements and the ongoing family matters.
Jinru glanced at Xinyue, who nodded subtly, indicating that they were both aware of the underlying tensions. The room seemed to shrink around them as Lee Yunqi continued, outlining the intricacies of the family business and the strategic importance of maintaining strong alliances.
We need to ensure that all parties are aligned in their objectives. Su Jinru, your role in the company is pivotal, and Xinyue, your involvement is equally significant. It's essential that we work together harmoniously to achieve our mutual goals.
Jinru felt a mix of frustration and resignation. She had always prided herself on her independence, yet the circumstances had forced her into a position where collaboration felt more like an obligation than a choice.
I understand, Mr. Lee, but I need to ensure that my personal interests are also considered in these arrangements.
Of course, Jinru. Your personal well-being is important to us. We want this to be a mutually beneficial relationship, not just a strategic alliance.
Despite his reassurances, Jinru couldn't shake the feeling that her autonomy was slipping away. The proposal to marry him as a form of repayment for saving her life had already blurred the lines between personal and professional boundaries, and now, with the added pressure of her father's declining health, she felt trapped in a web of expectations and obligations. As the meeting progressed, Lawyer Sue made an unexpected entrance, her demeanor confident and assertive. She had been appointed to handle the legal aspects of Jinru's impending marriage and potential divorce, a situation that was becoming increasingly tangled. Lawyer Sue, addressing the room.
Good afternoon. I understand we have several matters to discuss regarding Su Jinru's marital arrangements and the inheritance issues surrounding Mr. Lee's estate.
Her presence added another layer of complexity to the already tense atmosphere. Jinru couldn't help but feel that Lawyer Sue was more interested in advancing her own agenda than providing unbiased legal counsel.
Mr. Lee, it's imperative that we finalize the divorce proceedings to ensure that the estate is distributed according to your wishes. Su Jinru, I understand this is a difficult time, but clarity is essential for all parties involved.
Jinru felt her stomach churn. The idea of a divorce was not only emotionally taxing, but also legally intricate, especially given the high stakes involved with her family's assets and the powerful Lee group. After the meeting, Jinru found herself alone in her office, the weight of the day's discussions pressing down on her. She stared out the window, watching the city lights flicker as dusk settled over Jiangcheng. The city that never slept seemed to mock her with its constant activity, a stark contrast to the turmoil brewing within her. Just then, her phone buzzed with a message from her father. "Don't forget the engagement party tonight. Your presence is required." The reminder was another reminder of her inescapable obligations. Determined to find some semblance of control, Jinru decided to confront Li Yunqi directly. She arranged a meeting at a quiet cafe, hoping to discuss her concerns away from the formalities of the office. When she arrived, Li Yunqi was already seated, his posture relaxed yet commanding. He greeted her with a polite nod, and they began to talk about the complexities of their arrangement.
Su Jinru, I understand the situation is far from ideal for you. However, we must find a way to make this work for the sake of the company and your family's legacy.
I appreciate your concerns, Mr. Lee, but this arrangement feels more like a business transaction than a marriage. I need to feel valued as an individual, not just as a means to an end.
Li Yunqi listened attentively, his expression thoughtful.
Your individuality is important, Jinru. Perhaps we need to redefine our terms to ensure that both of us benefit personally and professionally from this union.
Despite his reassurances, Jinru couldn't shake the feeling that her autonomy was being compromised. The balance between her personal desires and her family's expectations was teetering precariously, and she struggled to find a way to maintain her sense of self amidst the mounting pressures. The evening of the engagement party arrived, and Jinru found herself surrounded by a sea of well-dressed guests, all eager to celebrate the union between her and Li Yunqi. The grand ballroom was adorned with elegant decorations, the soft glow of chandeliers casting a warm light over the festivities. As she mingled with the guests, Jinru couldn't help but feel out of place. Her mind was elsewhere, preoccupied with the complexities of her arrangement and the lingering bitterness from Zhao Chun's betrayal. She caught sight of Xin Yue, who was engaged in a hushed conversation with several influential members of the Li group. Their eyes met briefly, a silent acknowledgement of the shared tensions between them. During the event, Aunt Qin, her stepmother, approached her with a bright smile. "Jinru, you look stunning in that wedding dress. Li chose it perfectly for you." Jinru forced a smile, the pressure of maintaining appearances weighing heavily on her.
Thank you, Aunt Jin. It's very elegant.
As the evening progressed, Jinru found herself drawn into a conversation with Boss Lee, the chairman of the Lee Group, and Lee Yunqi's father. His imposing presence and authoritative demeanor made her feel both intimidated and intrigued.
Sujin-Roo, welcome. I'm glad you could attend tonight. Your role in the company is becoming increasingly important.
Jinru nodded, trying to mask her discomfort.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. I'm committed to contributing in any way I can.
Their conversation was interrupted by the arrival of Lawyer Sue, who seemed to radiate determination and unyielding focus. Her presence was both a relief and a source of additional tension, as Jinru knew that their professional paths were now irrevocably intertwined. Later that evening, as the party reached its peak, Jinru found herself alone in a quiet corner of the ballroom, her thoughts racing. The complexities of her engagement with Lee Yunqi, the betrayal of Zhao Chun, and the strained relationship with Xinyue all seemed to converge in a whirlwind of emotions. Suddenly, Lawyer Sue approached her, a stern expression on her face.
Jinru, we need to discuss the divorce proceedings. It's imperative that we finalize everything as soon as possible.
Jinru felt a surge of frustration.
Lawyer Sue, this isn't something that can be rushed. There are too many variables at play.
Time is of the essence, given the inheritance issues and the legal obligations tied to your father's estate. We need to ensure everything is in order to prevent any complications down the line.
Before Jinru could respond, Lee Yunqi entered the room, his presence commanding immediate attention.
Sujin-Roo, Lawyer Sue, let's take this discussion to a more private setting.
The three of them moved to a secluded area, the weight of their combined responsibilities and personal conflicts hanging heavy in the air. Jinru couldn't help but feel that every decision she made was steering her further into a maze of obligations she didn't fully understand. Lee Yunqi, sitting down, his tone measured.
Sujin-Roo, I understand your concerns about the divorce proceedings, but we need to find a way to resolve this amicably. Our marriage was intended to be a strategic alliance, and I believe we can navigate these challenges together.
Jinru felt her frustration boil over.
But this isn't what I wanted, Lee Yunqi. This was thrust upon me by circumstances beyond my control. I need to find a way out of this arrangement without damaging my reputation or my father's legacy.
We can negotiate the terms to ensure that your interests are protected, Sujin-Roo. It's important to approach this with a clear mind and a strategic plan.
As they delved deeper into the discussion, Jinru began to see the layers of complexity that surrounded her. The intertwining of family obligations, business interests, and personal vendettas created a situation that was both legally intricate and emotionally draining. She realized that navigating this maze required not only legal acumen, but also a keen understanding of the underlying motivations and hidden agendas of those involved. Amidst the chaos, an unexpected alliance began to form. Lee Yunqi, despite his initial rigidity, showed a willingness to find a mutually beneficial solution. His strategic mindset and unwavering dedication to the family business mirrored Jinru's own resilience and determination to protect her interests. As days turned into weeks, Jinru found herself working closely with Lee Yunqi and Lawyer Sue, their interactions becoming more frequent and nuanced. The initial tensions began to soften as they uncovered shared goals and common ground. Jinru couldn't deny the growing respect she felt for Lee Yunqi's dedication and his ability to remain calm under pressure. However, the shadows of the past still loomed large. Zhao Chun's betrayal and Xinyue's complicity were constant reminders of the fragile nature of trust and loyalty. Jinru knew that resolving these issues would require more than just legal maneuvering. It would necessitate confronting the deep-seated emotions and hidden motives that had driven her stepsister and former boyfriend to deceive her. The turning point came during a high-stakes meeting at the Lee Group headquarters. The room was filled with influential executives and family members, all eager to witness the resolution of the ongoing conflicts. As Jinru, Lee Yunqi, and Lawyer Sue entered the room, The air was thick with anticipation and unspoken tensions. Boss Lee, addressing the room,
We are gathered here today to finalize the arrangements regarding Soo-Jin-Roo's position within the company and the terms of her marriage with Lee Yun-chi. It's imperative that we handle this matter with the utmost professionalism and care.
As the meeting progressed, Jinru felt a surge of determination. She had spent weeks preparing, strategizing, and understanding the intricate dynamics at play. She knew that the outcome of this meeting would shape the future of not only her own life, but also the legacy of the Lee family business.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. I am committed to contributing to the success of the Lee Group and ensuring that our familial and business relationships are strengthened through this arrangement.
Her words were met with nods of approval from several key stakeholders, while others remained skeptical. However, the presence of Lee Yun-chi and lawyer Sue lent an air of authority and assurance that Jinru had worked hard to cultivate. As the meeting drew to a close, the atmosphere had shifted. The initial resistance had softened, replaced by a sense of cautious optimism. Lee Yun-chi's strategic proposals and Jinru's unwavering resolve had convinced many of their ability to navigate the complexities of their arrangement successfully.
With everyone's agreement, we can move forward with the outlined plans. Soo-Jin-Roo, your role will be pivotal in ensuring that our projects continue to thrive and that our familial bonds remain strong.
Jinru felt a sense of relief wash over her. The immediate crisis had been averted, and a path forward had been established. Yet she knew that this was only the beginning. The challenges of maintaining this delicate balance between personal desires and familial obligations were far from over. In the aftermath of the meeting, Jinru found herself reflecting on the journey that had brought her to this point. The betrayal of Zhao Chun, the scheming of Xin Yue, and the unexpected proposal from Lee Yun-chi had all played a role in shaping her into a stronger, more resilient individual. She had learned to navigate the treacherous waters of family expectations and corporate politics, emerging with a clearer sense of purpose and direction. As the days turned into months, Jinru began to find her footing within the Lee Group. Her legal expertise proved invaluable, and her ability to remain composed under pressure earned her the respect of her colleagues and superiors alike. Lee Yun-chi, once a distant and intimidating figure, became a trusted ally and confidant. Their professional relationship gradually deepened, evolving into a partnership built on mutual respect and shared goals. Jinru discovered that beneath Lee Yun-chi's stern exterior lay a man of integrity and unwavering dedication to his family and business. His initial proposal, though seemingly transactional, was rooted in a genuine desire to ensure her well-being and secure the family's legacy. Despite the progress they had made, Jinru couldn't ignore the lingering emotions that simmered beneath the surface. The connection she felt with Lee Yun-chi was undeniable, a spark that hinted at the possibility of something more profound and meaningful. However, the complexities of their arrangement and the shadows of the past continued to cast a veil of uncertainty over their relationship. One evening, as Jinru worked late in her office, she received a message from Xin Yue. "Jinru, I need to talk. Please meet me at the hotel lobby tomorrow morning." The request was unexpected, and Jinru felt a mix of apprehension and curiosity. What was Xin Yue after now? The following morning, Jinru arrived at the hotel lobby, finding Xin Yue waiting with a solemn expression. The tension between them was palpable, but there was also a sense of urgency that Jinru couldn't ignore.
"We need to settle things once and for all. It's about Zhao Chun and our family's legacy."
Before Xin Yue could elaborate, Lee Yun-chi entered the lobby, his presence commanding attention once again. "Soo-Jin-Roo, Xin Yue, may I have a moment?" The three of them moved to a secluded area, the weight of their shared history and intertwined futures pressing down on them. As they began to discuss the lingering issues surrounding Zhao Chun and the family's assets, Jinru realized that resolving these conflicts required not only legal expertise, but also emotional courage and a willingness to confront the painful truths of the past. As the months passed, Jinru continued to navigate the intricate dynamics of her engagement with Li Yunqi and her strained relationship with Xin Yue. The legal proceedings for her divorce from Zhao Chun were meticulously managed by lawyer Su, ensuring that her interests were protected despite the complexities of the situation. Jinru's role within the Li Group flourished, her legal acumen and dedication earning her the trust and admiration of her colleagues. She found herself increasingly involved in strategic decision-making, her insights proving invaluable to the company's continued success. Through it all, the bond between Jinru and Li Yunqi deepened. What had initially been a strategic alliance began to evolve into a genuine partnership, built on mutual respect and a shared vision for the future. Their interactions became less transactional and more personal, revealing layers of vulnerability and understanding that Jinru had never anticipated. Despite the challenges they faced, Jinru felt a sense of hope for the first time in months. The path ahead was still fraught with obstacles, but she had discovered a strength within herself that she never knew existed. With Li Yunqi by her side and the support of those who genuinely cared for her, Jinru was ready to embrace the future, no matter how uncertain it might be. If you enjoyed this story, there's another video on screen right now. Go ahead and give it a look for an even more astonishing tale. And don't forget, we'll have many more uplifting and dramatic stories coming your way, so make sure you subscribe to our channel. That way, you'll never miss our newest uploads.